Hello, and welcome to Beyond Technique, the podcast that empowers photographers to bring their businesses to the next level. Brought to you by Platypod, Photofocus, and ClickCon University. This is Shamira Young, and I'm joined by my co-host and King of Florida, Skip Cohen.
King of Florida. This is really good because our guest today, her parents live about 5 miles away. I don't want them to know that I'm the King of Florida or think that. So, yeah, all right. I'll be the King of Florida just for the podcast. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I have some Florida envy right now here in Michigan. It is pouring rain, so I'm a little jealous of you Floridians.
Well, we had the storm this morning and got all the rain, and now it's gone. Let's talk about one aspect of Platypod that's become very, very cool. If you think about it, whether it's the Max or the Ultra, once you've got the base, it's kind of a blank canvas to do anything you want. And I was looking at some of the things the other day and seeing some of the images on the Instagram page that Platypod shares and on the blog that are being shared. And it's very cool because everybody is taking things like the goosenecks with additional lighting or changing up the kind of ball head they're using. Or we've got that I love that little square jellyfish phone holder because I've used that on an Ultra myself. And while you could go out and you could get, if you wanted something just to hold your phone, there are a dime a dozen everywhere. But when you talk about putting the square jellyfish on your Platypod, and then you want to be able to do other things with it in terms of recording with your phone, it just changes the diversity of the product. I don't know which are some of your favorite accessories.
You know, I love the goosenecks, and I have to add in, by the way, you know, we all have extra time right now with everything going on with the pandemic, and it's the perfect time to experiment and explore with your style and creative projects, and it's just very, very cool. And so I'm loving playing with the goosenecks, and I mean, just looking at stuff that people are posting, it's so inspiring. You mentioned the blog. We've got toy photography up there. We've got a frozen fruit tutorial, freezing fruit and getting these really cool artistic shots. Someone else posted about they were capturing images of their city from their car, like not even leaving their car, and their Platypod helping with that. It's very cool, the different things that you can do, and especially with the accessories available now.
Well, right now, and you said it, we've all got time. So being able to play with this stuff and go from macro to anything with your cell phone and tie it all in together, it just becomes one of these really diverse little tools that you've got to play with, and it takes up no room. And I don't want to turn this into more of an infomercial, but you and I are both, for our listeners, Shamir and I are both involved in working on different Platypod projects, but we're involved because we believe in the product, and especially Larry, Dr. T, who is the founder and who never goes down on looking for new applications. So, and here we go. Let's talk about today's guest.
Let's get to it.
We've got Sherry Hagerman in the house. And my friendship with Sherry, our friendship is a testimonial to an industry that we all love dearly. Sherry is an award-winning, very successful wedding and portrait photographer, but these days she's best known for a much bigger role, and that's founder of ClickCon. Now, just to give you some back history on Sherry and I met, I think it was either 2009 or 2010 when she attended Skip's summer school. And that was a workshop series I was doing that went all the way through 2013. We've been involved in numerous projects. We've spoken at different conferences together. Sherry and her husband, Jeremy, and Sheila and I have all been out to dinner together. I love working with her, and I especially love working with her team on ClickCon. Now, ClickCon kicked off last summer with their first annual event in Chicago. They broke all records they just had this incredibly diverse educational and trade show event. And it was amazing because you could feel the electricity in the air. And I know that sounds kind of hokey and sappy, but sometimes you go to a conference where it's kind of flat, like a soda that's been left open all day long. It's got color, it's got flavor, but no fizz. Well, this one had fizz. It had a little of everything, and people were so excited to be there. This year, ClickCon was scheduled to start in about a month and a half, August 11th. So actually, no, it's about 2 months away. But like everything in our lives, the pandemic changed all of that. Now, here's the cool thing. Team ClickCon isn't going to slow down. So while this year's show has been postponed to August 10th, 2021, they're launching ClickCon Nation on the same day that this year's show was supposed to start, August 11th. The pandemic may have changed everything in our lives, but moving to online couldn't be more perfect for the management team, also known as the heart of ClickCon. So we're going to talk about education. We're going to talk about expanding your skill set, the challenges of building your business back in today's environment, and who knows what else will come up in the podcast. And I know I've gone a little bit too long, but it's hard not to do when you've got a guest that you know so well. So Sherry, welcome to Beyond Technique.
Hi, I'm really excited to be here today and talk to your listeners and give them some good information.
Cool.
We are so excited to have you.
Thank you.
The pressure is on you now. Good information. Wow.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot. I think between the three of us, we can really figure out some good stuff here.
For sure, for sure. And, let's start with our favorite first question, just so our listeners can get to know you a bit more. Tell us about yourself, Sherry, your background, and how you ended up doing what you're doing today.
Oh, my goodness. We're going really far back now. So I started, I've been doing photography since I was 6 years old. Had a little, I don't know if you guys remember those Kodak 110 cameras. I got one of those for my birthday, but I didn't really ever take photography serious until I was out of college. During college, I had taken a ton of photography courses because I loved it. I got my first real DSLR when I was 18 for graduation, for my high school graduation. And when I graduated college, I was actually going to become a animation artist and work on movies like Toy Story and things like that for Pixar. But I ended up shooting somebody's wedding and I fell in love with it. So I became a wedding photographer. It's been about 16 years now that I've been doing that, and I absolutely love it. I had a hard time coming out of the gate, which Skip can attest to. And that's how I met Skip. I actually attended Skip's summer school. And that's pretty much what gave me my lift or my push, and also really gave me the want to educate other people. So I think Skip's summer school is really where the photography part of it came out, where I started catching on to pricing myself right and doing things right, as well as wanting to give back to the community. So both of them actually started right there with his show that he had. But yeah, 16 years. I'm number 2 in the U.S., number 1 in the Midwest, and voted number 6 in the world. So wow. A lot of stuff going on this way.
One of the things that you've done, you walk the talk when it comes to education, because I remember one year at summer school where I was blown away because I think you brought 5 or 6 people. Am I right?
Yeah.
You brought your staff because you wanted to get them exposed to other photographers and the educational platform that we were doing. And that was when I realized that, wow, there's just sort of no stopping you when it comes to education.
Yeah, I think we brought about 9 of them. And that was the second year that I attended Skip Summer School. I had such a great time the first year that I kind of wanted to light a fire under their butt too. So I brought all of the full-time photographers that I had in my studio at that time, and I wanted them to see the value, because it wasn't something that was common here in the suburbs for people to get together and, go do some continuing education. It was really just kind of what you know is what you know. So it was really nice to take them all out there and show them that continuing education on yourself is giving back to yourself as well.
Well, so let's switch gears just a little bit, but not very much. But where did ClickCon come from? Now I obviously know some of the story in the background, and we don't have to go to the whole story.
Yeah.
But why? Let's talk about why ClickCon.
Well, obviously, I've already said it, giving back to the industry is just something I felt like I've needed to do for years. I love teaching. I enjoy it. And I felt after that I met you, Skip, there were so many people that reached out to help me and help me get through my ups and downs in the business that I wanted to give back as well. I started becoming a teacher at some local camera shops. And then I started doing some traveling and some conferences, speaking as well. And something I realized that was missing here in Chicago is we don't have a great conference, and we are the center of the Midwest. Matter of fact, we don't even have a conference. Now, there is Out of Chicago, which is a conference that's held in Chicago every year, but it's for landscape or street photography. We don't have anything for wedding photographers or portrait photographers, pet photographers, senior photographers. It's not something that's here in this area. And it took me to last year to figure out why. But that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring a fantastic conference right here to the heart of the Midwest. And that's how ClickCon came about.
Well, Sherry, Chicago has always been a strong pro market. In fact, if I go back to my Hasselblad days and even my Polaroid days when I lived in the Chicago area, I mean, Chicago, you had New York, you had Chicago, you had LA. And then obviously, Carmel on that side and Northern California bringing in the fine art and Ansel Adams and that whole cradle of influential photographers from way back when, like Ansel Adams. But Chicago's always been strong, and there was one year where the same group that does PPE New York did Photo Midwest, and it just didn't pull well, and then it kind of disappeared. And you've got a very, very strong market in Chicago, in Illinois, and you're also able to draw from Wisconsin and Minnesota and Indiana and Ohio. You're surrounded by a lot of really good photographers, especially in the portrait wedding category.
And, while we're talking about ClickCon, I'm super curious, Sherry, what trends, or did you notice any trends from last year's show about what portrait and wedding photographers were struggling with, or things they were interested in learning that they really needed to help their business?
I think more or less nowadays, people are wanting to start to work on their business. We didn't see that so much in the past. They were more interested in working on the new lighting technique or, the new posing techniques. We're now seeing more people wanting to work on their business as well, which it should be that way because we all know that a big part of running your business is the business part itself. They have a lot of questions. What, are the proper products to use? What's the proper pricing to go with? All things that can be covered. The newest one that's absolutely huge, and I can't say that it's new, but for most of us it is because we're not social media gurus, is social media marketing. That's where we're pulling most of our marketing from nowadays, and it's just with so many different platforms coming out between Instagram and Facebook and all the other ones. I'm dating myself because I call those for the younger generation. We don't know how to use those properly when it comes to marketing. So that's a really big trend, as well as learning how to market yourself.
It's funny. I remember going back to 2009 and my daughter finding it kind of creepy that her dad was on Facebook. I mean, seriously, if you think about social media and what we all do now, and especially because of the pandemic, God, Zoom has become a huge part of all of our lives.
Yeah.
Talk about a company that was in the right place at the right time. But being able to have that face-to-face contact, Shamira and I are involved on and off with the F64 Lunch Bunch. We've all been in meetings. And I guess that brings me to the question of, along with building that business and social media, in answer to Shamira's question, let's talk about what you're doing with ClickCon Nation, because ClickCon for 2020 has been moved to 2021, as I mentioned in the beginning. What's ClickCon Nation?
So ClickCon Nation is our online platform because we have moved the conference itself to 2021. Basically what ClickCon Nation is it's going to be 8 months of online learning through our social app, ClickCon app. And what we wanted to do, the teachers that we already had signed up, they're all pretty much back on board to do some online learning courses for the ticket holders of ClickCon. We are going to be selling tickets too for ClickCon Nation, but the 2020 ticket holders, we really wanted to boost them up and give back to them because they were really looking forward to the conference this year. So they all actually get into ClickCon Nation for free. But something that we're doing on top of this, I know Skip, you were talking a lot with Sherry, you've got to go online, and my husband kept saying you've got to go online, and my heart just broke with that because it wasn't what ClickCon is about. ClickCon is a hands-on conference. It is getting out there, getting in front of people, collaborating together. Because as you know, ClickCon is a major collaboration event. It's a collaboration event between all artists, hair artists, makeup artists, models, photographers, designers, all of us. So I knew that when we developed ClickCon Nation, we would still be able to plug in the education for hair artists, makeup artists, models, photographers, but it was still missing that hands-on aspect. So the hotel actually agreed to work with us when we can start getting into that 50-person meetup. And we're going to be doing now meetups across the U.S. For the 2020 ticket holders, and then for some extras. So we're kind of giving back in 2 ways. We're still going to go ahead with that online format, but when we're able to, we're going to throw some meetups out there too, so we can all still have that collaboration together.
I know one of the things that you and I talked about, which I'm probably premature in mentioning this, but it just gives you another example. One of the things of being more interactive, even though it's online, is offering some of the attendees that have an interest some kind of a website/blog review. Mm-hmm. that I'm happy to do some. There's some other people that would jump in on it. So it almost becomes like portfolio reviews. So even though we've got to deal with social distancing and deal with cyberspace, the ability for people to increase to just come up with a stronger game. I just did a presentation earlier this morning for another group where the whole issue was, this was a whole room full of creatives, writers, film producers, art directors, podcasters, content providers, you name it. And one of the things we talked about was creativity and the fact that right now, because of the pandemic, there's an opportunity for so many people with interesting skill sets to become leaders and take kind of a leadership role. And I guess that's one of the things I love about ClickCon, and what you and the Heart of ClickCon team is doing is providing that education and giving people those tools.
Yeah, and really what we wanted to do, because a lot of the online education that the conferences are switching to, it's 1 week and done type of thing. We really wanted this to go ahead and take the course until the next conference happens, just so we can give back to these ticket holders. And, we don't know how long this is going to last. I don't foresee this going away in October. I really don't foresee this happening or clearing up until next year. And we're all going to be stuck behind our desks for that time. So this is a great time to take ClickCon Nation for the next 8 months, starting in August, and carry us over to the next conference and be able to utilize that online platform to create some really great education and giving back to the community. And like you said, this is a time for us to work on ourselves as well. And, you had mentioned that you're willing to do some online portfolio for websites. All of that stuff is very important, and it's a great way to work on our own business right now.
Cool.
Sherry, I'd be curious to hear about, and this is putting you on the spot a little bit, but is there a story that stands out in your mind from ClickCon last year as far as it making a difference in a photographer's life or their business?
Oh, yeah.
Could you share one?
Sure. So, there's many of them. So one that stands out are two girls. I actually taught at a local college right before ClickCon. I did a couple of photography classes, and none of the students have ever attended a photography conference. And I told them, come to ClickCon. I promise it'll change your life. And they came to ClickCon, and the two of them were like a child in a candy store. They just, every time they saw me, they gave me a hug, and they're like, I can't believe how great this is. Why haven't we done anything like this before? And they even said it was better than attending the college courses. And, they are getting a little bit more, I would say, pointed type of education where it's not just a generalized. It is from great people that are out there in the industry working on this every day. And then the other story was a young woman just came up to me. And this one, melted me. She just collapsed in my arm and started crying. And she said how ClickCon had changed her life, and she feels that she can continue with the photography. She was going to give up on photography because she couldn't figure out the business side of it. And she said how ClickCon had changed her life. And we now talk on Facebook all the time. And to be honest, I think, Skip, that's kind of what I did to you back in 2009. I feel like it's the exact same story. So there are people out there that are struggling that they need this to light a fire under their butt and get back into it.
Yeah, Sherry crying in the hallway at MGM or Mirage? I don't remember.
It was that hotel across from MGM.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Well, here we are. But Shamera, I want to, for our listeners, I'm obviously involved with ClickCon as a speaker and presenter, and I love what Sherry's doing because education, there's such a demand for it. But I've got a short story of my own. I met Paolo Cassio at one of the programs I was teaching at ClickCon last year. Since then, we're good friends online. He's in California. I'm on the Gulf Coast of Florida. So it's not like we get to see each other very often. But he's working on a project right now in my other role with the hat I wear at Platypod. And when you put all of this stuff together, part of the reason that you go to conferences is the social end of it. And what I like about ClickCon Nation is that it's going to give people another outlet to be able to meet more photographers. So you might be stuck online and hunkered down. In fact, up until 2 months ago, I never used the expression hunkered down. But being indoors doesn't mean that you have to give up building friendships and getting to know other photographers. So it's kind of a neat way this is all coming about. I'm curious, what are some of the programs that you've got that you're thinking about for next year? What are you going to, for this year rather? You're going to kick off on August 11th, and I'm helping you in terms of finding the appropriate keynote to kick it off. But when you look at the platform, what are some of the programs that are on the agenda now to be released over the next 8 months?
Yeah, so we have Matthew Sutherland. He does some great cinematic work. He's going to be doing some things for us. We have Rick and Katja Wright. They're going to be doing some boudoir. Pierce Stevenson. He even wants to do an underwater. He was going to be doing an underwater class at the pool for 2020. He still wants to do that underwater online course. So he's still going to be doing that. Misha Wynn is a wonderful wedding photographer out of Texas. She's still going to be with us. Michelle Celentano, one of my favorite family photographers, she's already reached out and says she wants to be involved. And every single one of these that I have mentioned to you, they also want to do meetups for ClickCon in their area. So the speakers of ClickCon are just ultimately giving back as well, as far as speaking online programs and doing the meetups in their areas. Also, the vendors, they have been absolutely amazing. The vendors are actually going to be doing vendor programs after the speakers. So the way that we foresee ClickCon Nation online going or working is basically there will be a speaker presentation and then there will be a vendor presentation. That vendor presentation could be a demo of their new products. It could be a speaker that they're having showing you how to work the products. But it's going to be a really nice co-program where you'll get some education through the speakers and you're also going to be getting education through the vendors.
Wow. And, to your point about earlier, you mentioned how the photographer mentioned they had learned so much more at ClickCon than they had in college. And that's such a great point. And I remember the first time I ever went to a show, I could not believe how much I learned compared to college, actually. My degree is in art, and, we learned a little bit about everything, but there is nothing like attending a conference like ClickCon, where you can learn directly from photographers who are doing what they do and running their businesses. And there's also a special kind of energy that just comes from rubbing elbows with other photographers and exchanging ideas. So this is very, very cool.
Yeah. Something that, and Skip mentioned it now, and now you've also mentioned it, is the social aspect of it. And although you don't think there's a whole lot of social aspect with an online conference, the application that we're using for this has some really great social features. And one of them is called Shake. And if you're watching this through your phone, you can shake your phone. Or if you're watching it on your computer, you can actually hit the shake button on the computer through the app. And it actually will pull up everyone that is watching the same program that you are. And you guys can have your own side chat. Cool. So there is a new way to meet other photographers as well while this program is going on.
This is so cool and has so much potential. Switch gears one more time before we hit you with our last question. And just give our listeners a little bit of the background on let's say, we don't need to go into specific names or put anybody on the spot, but I love the fact that the management team for ClickCon is called the Heart of ClickCon. Mm-hmm. Talk about the diversity in that group in the Heart of ClickCon.
Oh my goodness. I love every single one of these. As you know, ClickCon is developed by photographers for photographers. Everyone in this group was a photographer and a conference junkie like myself. I had never put on conferences before this. When we got together, we wanted to develop something for other photographers. And since we had attended so many conferences, we kind of knew what we were looking for in those. We have Jean, who is pretty much in charge of keeping us all on track. We love her. Jean's a photographer out in the Plainfield area. We have Israel Perez. He's in charge of models. He has always had a really big connection with the model area, but he, again, another photographer. We have videographers. We have, Jerry, who is helping me out with the vendors. Susie, who is just amazing writer, but again, another photographer. She does a lot of the content based. But the people that we got together to do this, we weren't even friends. We didn't even really know each other very well. What we did is we met each other through other classes. And then when we started this, we actually happened to all be in the same room at the same time. And the 6 of us actually followed up. Now we have 2 that are also not photographers. We have Marifel Westa, who is in charge of hair, and Adriana Ghilarducci, who's in charge of makeup. So we're covering all aspects of photography, models, hair artists, makeup artists, designers. It is a major collaboration theme, and we've got someone from every genre on the board of ClickCon.
I think one of the things that happened last year that was so interesting, you offered business programs for the models and makeup artists, and those programs brought them into the fold, so that instead of just going to a conference where as a photographer you were going to photograph a model and they're there and they're hired to be pretty and be a subject in your photographs, this brought the models to be included. So in terms of business and marketing, the fact that you had a whole day of marketing just for them made them feel included, and it was really fun. Photographers were talking about, it's rare that you find a group of models, both male and female, that were so cooperative and so willing to be available at weird times and for street shots at night and things that you could do in the Chicago area. And I love how that's going to translate into some of the program for ClickCon Nation and then lead right into 2021 for ClickCon. So,
yeah, like I said, it's a community effort and it's a collaborative effort. We wanted to give back to those models, hair artists, makeup artists that were participating, and we want to continue to give them that education. Our vendors and attendees said that we have the top models in the industry and we have the top makeup artists and hair artists that are giving them their looks. So we couldn't have gotten a better compliment from anyone. And I do believe that partially is through the education that we're giving them and getting them prepared for the show. It's going to lead into ClickCon Nation. And what's cool about having a ticket to ClickCon Nation is you can be a photographer and attend one of the makeup programs, or you can be a hair artist and attend one of the photography programs. So this has actually gotten larger than just having that one day of education before the event.
That is so cool. This is so cool. We are coming up to the end of the interview. It just flies by. I know I say that every episode, but I mean it. It just flies by. And this is so inspiring. Sherry, our favorite last question we want to ask you, what advice do you have for photographers who are just starting out or who just need to stay inspired right now with everything going on with the pandemic?
Obviously is going to be educate yourself. You have to get out there and get to know people, ask questions. There's not going to be anyone out there that's going to shoot you down for asking a question. There's no better way in building your business than becoming friends with other people in the same exact business. They are not your competition. They are your friend and they are going to help you out with your business. You just have to ask. And education's obviously the most important part because these conferences are a way to get to know things that colleges don't teach.
Absolutely. It's about collaboration, not competition. You said it.
That's right.
And we want to make sure and ask, where can we find you online and where can we learn more about ClickCon Nation especially?
Yes, you'll be able to find everything. We haven't posted anything about ClickCon Nation yet because it's still in the works for the rest of this month. And then we're going to post it all at once. But you can find us at ClickCon, ClickCon.us.
Perfect. We'll make sure to include that in the show notes as well. And Skip, where can people hunt you down?
It's always the same. It's Skip Cohen University, where everything I write is published, and then Skip Cohen on Twitter, Skip Cohen on Facebook, and my email is skip@mei and the number 500.com. And we want to hear back from our listeners. If you've got somebody you'd like us to have on as a guest, if there's a particular topic you'd like us to explore, the fun of Beyond Technique is that we're not talking so much about lighting and posing and composition. This is all about the technique in terms of running your business and building a stronger presence, especially right now where there are some unique opportunities because of the pandemic.
Love it.
And Shamira, and I forgot what I always ask you. And Shamira, let's make this sound like totally, it's just off the cuff. Shamira, where do they go to find you?
You know, I was waiting for you to ask, and I was like, maybe I should just jump in and just give the info anyway.
That's
People,
it.
they can find me, send me an email at shmira@photofocus.com. That is my first name, CHAMIRA at photofocus.com. And as Skip mentioned, we love getting your questions, your ideas, your feedback, because we do not operate in a vacuum, and we love hearing from our listeners, and it really shapes how we move forward with the show, and especially with the awesome guests that we have on. And Sherry, speaking of awesome, you are awesome. Thank you again.
Good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you guys for inviting me.
Well, this was fantastic. And we want to thank our listeners for joining us as well. Please tell your friends about this podcast, especially if they have the desire to improve their photography business, especially with all of the craziness going on. We all have a little more extra time than we usually do. Why not tune into a helpful podcast like this one? We look forward to having you with us next time on Beyond Technique, brought to you by Platypod, Photofocus, and Skip Cohen University.